And welcome. This is Impact 2023, our continuing conversation where we talk about everything from current events, where we talk about what's going on in your community, what's going on here. And we talk about all of this from a Christian perspective. And so, as always, we ask that people lend your voice. Come on and give us your opinions and your comments by typing those into the comments section. And please feel free to type in your questions, your comments, and join the conversation so that you can be heard. This is a conversation. This is a two-way street. Whatever you feel like participating with your voice, we will read, we will take, and we will bring those to be a part of the overall conversation. So as always, please feel free to type your questions and your comments into the comment section. Now, I'll be upfront with you. Today is not going to be a deep, long day. We don't have a guest, but we have a topic to go into. So have your comments ready and jump on in, or you'll miss it. For those of you who don't know, today is November the 14th. Last week at this time was November 7th, and it was Election Day. So people all across the country came out for the election, for the different elections, state representatives in different places, the governor's race in two different states was going on. Here specifically in Virginia, we had basically the whole entire state legislature was up for grabs, and people were out and about. Elections were going on across the country. And if you've been here before, you know that one of the things that we press upon is elections, voting, utilizing that tool and that right. And as a reminder that it's less than 50% of the people who usually vote. Depending on what election you're talking about, you're talking about a presidential election, you're usually talking about 40% of the population vote. You're talking about on the off-cycle year, you're only talking about one third of the entire populations in certain areas voting. So it's not a lot of people that vote. And so important issues. It's extremely important to put the people into power that represent what you want to happen, what you want to occur. But yet, we still have a small, relatively small number of people who participate in the process. So just as a reminder, that's what was going on last week. And that leads into kind of what we're going to talk about briefly today. And it goes into voting, the participation. And what we've noticed, or what I've noticed, and it was a discussion point that I've had with a couple of people over the past, actually couple of weeks, is that we often talk about reasons of why we can't vote, reasons of why we don't want to participate in the process. And usually the reasons come as to, well, my vote doesn't count. And we've talked about that. But one of the other reasons is that we don't have qualified people to vote for. We have to pick the worst or the best of two bad choices. So we're not voting for the best, we're just voting against the worst. And then the question comes, well, why is that the situation in the scenario? Why is it that the people with the desire, I guess you could say, to run the country, to run our cities, to run our states, are oftentimes people that we don't want running our cities and running our states? Why does it seem like the choices that we have aren't that great? Now there is some thought process behind that when it comes to, look, most of us think that we're more intelligent than our bosses a lot of times. Like, oh man, the bosses, this guy or this lady is not that smart. They're not that quick. They're not that bright. They got there for this reason or that reason or whatever. Family got there because of, as a family nepotism or whatever the reason is. So we always have that kind of There always is that kind of general thought process sometimes among people who you just think that people in charge aren't that smart. But then there's another grain of thought or a line of thought where the best people aren't running. The best and the brightest don't want to get involved into government. The best and the brightest don't want to get involved in leadership. The best and the brightest don't want to get involved into politics. And so then that's the other side of the coin, the other concern. And the people that we respect oftentimes are not the ones that are going to run. However, the question then, the question of the comment is participation. Who should participate and who shouldn't participate? From a Christian standpoint, sometimes it comes down to the fact that it's difficult to be someone who calls themselves a Christian, who walks in the manner of a Christian, and to be able to get into the arena of politics, get into the arena of government. Because you don't just serve people who are like-minded like you. So if you have Christian values, you're not governing over other people with Christian values. You're governing people with all types of values. And so if you hold high your values or hold steady fast to your values and think that they need to be a part of the decisions that you make, you're going to have a tough time representing people who don't agree with you, representing people who are not like you, trying to make rules and decisions for people who are not like you. You may have a tough time with that. Also, politics here involves a lot of being untruthful. Let's just be plain and simple and be straightforward with it. You got to lie. You don't have to, but our tradition, if that's the best way I can say it, is to lie. And so when you go on television, you lie. When you get interviewed by the newspaper or the radio, you lie. When people are talking to you and asking you your opinion, you lie. And when you watch the debates, whether it be for the smallest of the smallest, you could be, county clerk, school board, whatever. You see people up there just not telling the truth. And you go all the way up to senators and, representatives in the House, president, whatever. And you hear people again, just not telling the truth, spinning the truth, lying. And so it comes to, I think of the people who I think are sharp. Oftentimes, these are people who have religious values. And then I wonder, well, for the most part, you're going to have a tough time running for office, because the tradition of how we built our politics is that you have to be able to lie. You have to be able to spin the truth. And then it's a tough tough task to ask you to do that Monday through Saturday, and then you're lying Monday through Saturday. You come into church on Sunday. We're studying the Word. You're listening, participating, and then tomorrow morning when you go right back to work, you're gonna have to be somebody who is doing some unsavory things and lying again, and placating people with money and power, and just doing things that go against what you know and believe. And so it's a tough situation to be in. Well, we can go straight to the comment. Many persons do not take the time to familiarize themselves with the issues. Some issues are very complex. Therefore, people don't vote because they don't want to make the wrong choice, and they don't want to feel stupid. That's a good point, because there's nothing worse than walking into the booth and not knowing what they're talking about. They have all of these different agendas, all of these different things to vote for, and you sit back and you're like, well, I don't even understand what that is. This time around, in my area, they were referencing a previous vote where they were talking about whether or not they need to have some additional bonds for the school system. Well, if you don't understand what the bond referendum was for, then you don't know where to vote, yay or nay. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Sometimes people just don't vote for that reason. Here's the thing: skip that one. There is nothing wrong with going in to vote. Voting on the things you know about, skipping the ones you don't know about. And so if the excuse or the reason for not voting or participating at all is, well, I didn't really keep up, I don't know what's going on. Well, vote for the stuff that you know, and skip the stuff that you don't know. if you feel so inclined to do. So that is one of the ways to combat. I understand it. I do understand. With our busy lives, you got family, you got work, you got whatever activities, you got church, hopefully, and whatever other organizations that you may be a part of. It's hard to keep up with what's going on in politics. It's important, but it's hard. And so I do understand that, but I do reject that notion in the sense of, if you don't know what to vote for, I mean, you got to. Well, most times you're gonna go in there, it's gonna be multiple things. You got to be able to know one. I mean, it's not that difficult to know the difference between the presidential candidates, or the gubernatorial candidate, or if you're in a city, the mayor. So always, you should be able to vote for something. So just get the ones you don't know. But back to kind of who we are. I think one of the reasons that we have a difficult time having people vote who represent us is that the people who represent us, you can have a hard time getting into politics. With that being said, there's plenty of pastors, plenty of people who call themselves religious, whether it be Christian, Muslim, whatever, who are part of politics, who are politicians, who are in leadership positions, in political positions. Are they compromising themselves, or are they just doing the best that they can? What is it that they are able to do that the rest of us aren't? I'll sit back and I'll say, you can, I believe you can participate in politics as a Christian. I think you can participate in politics and still keep your values. What you believe doesn't necessarily dictate what other people believe. If we're following our Christian values, then I think it should represent for everybody, in the sense of, the good saying from the Bible that a lot of people use, and they use in different contexts, is you sit back and you say, as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. And so you walk in the way that you're going to do, but you don't have to make everybody else. We're supposed to be an example, so you don't have to sit back and try to force everyone else to do what you want them to do. And I think that's the line to come into play when you are talking about people who are Christians in politics, people who are Christians in government and leadership. And so one of the reasons we don't have good choices, I think, is because the good people don't want to participate. And I don't think that one of the reasons that good people shouldn't participate is because they think that somehow they have to compromise their Christianity and who they are. I think we have plenty of examples of people who have shown themselves to be Christians, and they may not be perfect, which no one is, but you can still be in a role of leadership and show who you are and be true to who you are. And I think, and I bring that as a challenge to different people. We need the best. We don't need the best and the brightest. We just need some people who are true to themselves to run for some of these positions in office. There are some people out there who are some great people, but we need more people to participate in the actual election process. So here we've constantly talked about, when we talked about criminal justice, when we talked about criminal justice reform, when we talked about just social justice, when we talk about just issues of fairness, when we talk about a lot of the things that are going on in our community, one of the solutions is to make sure that we have people in power who are going to be able to represent us. And in order to have those type of people, sometimes we have to be the ones to be those people. We have to start running, encouraging our family and friends to run, encouraging people who we know to run. And I know there's a lot of money in politics and other things going on, but we can't just sit back here and constantly have choices that we think are unsavory when we know that there's plenty of people out here who are qualified to run and participate. And we have to have that expectation. Like, look, there are people out here who don't need to be claiming Christianity just so that they can run. We need people who, if you're going to say that you are a Christian, or you're going to say that you believe in God, to act in accordance with it and show and prove. Otherwise, the truth of the matter is we need to start, especially these politicians, calling them out. in the sense of, look, you can't come here, try to get our votes and claim, you know, claim the Christian lifestyle, and yet every time you walk and talk with the rest of these politicians, you sound very different, or your voting record is very different, or your opinions are very different. And so I encourage all of us to remember that. I think that we can affect um, change. We can be a part of the process, and we should be a part of the process. And if you're not going to be a part of the process as an individual, then encourage people who you know will do a good job or do better job than what we currently have to go ahead and participate. That has been, that has been a question, and it is a question. And again, with people that I talk to about whether or not Christianity and politics um, can mix. See, I told you I was going to be short. That's where we are. That's basically it for today. It's the conversation piece of whether or not, and again, this is not whether or not you're a pastor and you're running. This is just Christians all across the board. Politicians and Christianity doesn't match, doesn't mix, and so that's an important issue. So if anybody has any any kind of opinion or comment on that, that's the conversation that I would like to spark and to keep going. That the people will sit back and look at themselves, look at their lives, look at those who are around us, encourage those who need to be encouraged, and don't have any fear of whether or not, can I go in here and be true to myself and run for office or participate in politics. Oh, we do have a comment. The problem with ministers being politicians is that politics often requires compromise. There will be times they will have to vote for an issue to get other politicians to vote for their interests. As Christians, are we called to vote for the lesser of two evils? That's a good question. When you have two bad choices, what do you pick? Because oftentimes not picking is not an option. And so if you do have two evils, sometimes you just have the option. You don't have an option of not picking. And so that's what boxes all of us in. And even with ministers or even just, anybody who's true to their faith. A lot of the decisions that I think politicians and leaders have to make are package deals. And so you don't just choose one versus the other. You choose a package of things versus another package of things. A package of good ideas, bad ideas. A package of things that align with your faith and things that go against your faith. And then there's another package of good ideas and bad ideas and things that go with your faith and things that go against your faith. And either one, you're going to pick some stuff that aligns with who you are, and the other one, you're going to pick some stuff that doesn't align with who you are, and vice versa. And so, yeah, I think that is the bugaboo in the whole situation. Like, there is no way to avoid, voting on some things that you don't agree 100% with. So I think that is the problem. You have to vote for the lesser of two evils in some situations. You have to pick the lesser of evil in some situations. And we as voters have to do that. We sit back and we look at people who we know that they're not telling the truth, or we know that they're doing some things that are unsavory or against how we believe in our lifestyles and things like that. But you have to pick. You have to pick. And so the same way that us as individual people have to make decisions is the same way the leaders have to make decisions, where truly you got to pick the best option. Instead of saying the lesser of two evils, I guess we should say the best option, the option that is the most aligned with your values, the one that is the most favorable towards what you believe in. And so, yeah, that is the problem. And really, there's no solution to that other than you just have to do the best that you can. And I think that's what life is. It's just us doing the best that you can and being as close to what we know to be right as it should be. All right, that was a great question, or a great comment. That wasn't a question, a great comment. Absolutely great. All right, so just as a reminder, again, not to just keep pounding the same topic over and over again. But that should be a consideration. Keep that as either a topic of conversation or keep it in your mind that we need to encourage those who we know to run and ourselves to participate, whether that means running or not, just participating in the process. We need as many people who we think are good to participate in the process. And so the next time we go into the booth, maybe it's not two people who you're just like, I got to pick again, like we said, the lesser of two evils. You're looking at two people and saying, man, this is a great person over here. There's a great person here. I'm just picking the best one that I feel most comfortable with, instead of going in there feeling depressed and picking the one that is just the least terrible. All right. That is all we have for the day. As a reminder, we're here every single week, but also on Thursdays at 7 o'clock. We're here as well for Thursday Thirst, the weekly Bible study. I encourage you. It's been really good. Reverend Cox has been going through the Bible, some of the more famous and interesting stories going on right now, as he's touching on Rahab, and he's I think getting ready to go into the Battle of Jericho and some other little things. So if you really want to get into some of the Bible and some of the different topics, please definitely join us on Thursday Thirst. Again, Thursday Thirst is our weekly Bible study. On Sundays, 10 o'clock, worship service here, YouTube, Facebook, also in person. And on Tuesdays, 7 o'clock, we have prayer. And at 8 o'clock every time, we have Impact 2023. Oh, real quick. In the past voting period, there was an issue that was soundly defeated. The mayor's response was that people who think change takes money and those who think hope and prayer might work are wrong. That's interesting. What is the best way I can say this? I'm just going to keep it plain and keep it real. The mayor here was on the wrong side of an issue, and like the young people say, it was a little butthurt. That's the way the young people say it. Spillers word, and so just totally wrong comments just coming out. He wanted a casino here, and the way to get it is not to make fun of people who disagree with you, to try to discourage the people's thought process because they disagree with you, call them names and do things such as that. And that was the logic and the thought process of those who were some of those who were in leadership over the casino. And so they thought that, let's talk about, Black people who are not going to vote for the casino, and let's call them names and say that they don't have a thought process of their own. They just following behind others, or they scared, or they being abused. And so let's talk about them and talk about the fact that, that they like to pray, and that stuff ain't going to be what's going to get it done. What's going to get it done is, voting and on the issues that we want you to vote on. Denigrating people is not going to do the job. And, I think what he missed, and his comment, prayer apparently worked. And I think what he missed is that people weren't praying for that. They were praying against that. And so maybe if he had understood that a little better, maybe he would have understood that, it's not, there's nothing you were going to do to win. Maybe if you had understood your population a little bit better, then you wouldn't, one, be so angry that you have to try to talk about them, and two, you'd understand that maybe this wasn't the right place. Just because you want it doesn't mean it works out. But that's a politician whose feelings was hurt, and he's hurt because I think he, when you get on the wrong side of things and you start talking about people, you're realizing that your political career has come to a not to an end, but it's reached the height that it's going to go. Not going to go any higher. So yeah, that was interesting to bring that up. Yeah, uh, you know, feelings is hurt. I appreciate that comment. That was pretty good, and I appreciate everybody who joined in. Again, always you feel free to add any comments and continue on in the chat. And as always, have a good one and join us again.